Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. It's an update video to keep you guys obviously updated with what's going on in and around Molineux. Hope you guys have had a great start to your week. The sun is shining. Wolves are winning football matches again. All is good at the moment. Let's try and smash 250 likes on this video once again. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've had a nice little article from John Percy, the ever-reliable John Percy, today as well, which we'll go through, and another couple of bits of transfer news. But let's go and start off now with that article from John Percy here. We're going to be looking through it, picking out the key points, giving my thoughts on them, and of course let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below as well. So of course, as you would expect, the article is full of praise for the current head coach Vitor Pereira. We saw once again him and out doing his normal antics out in Wolverhampton. I can't believe somebody has done a trip to Ipswich, won the football match, which is obviously great, come home. I'd be going straight to bed. I would be absolutely shattered. But Vitor was out till early hours of the morning on Saturday. He said he wanted to drink with the fans. He was seen in the likes of Wetherspoons in Wolverhampton, the Gifford Arms, unconfirmed reports of a couple of other bars as well. But I mean, I love it. It's interesting though, because there will become a point where maybe results aren't quite going our way, to see how he acts then. But of course it's great, and of course he's having an impact and doing different things with the first team squad as well. As you can see here, soon after his arrival in December, he insisted on all the players eating together at meal times in the canteen, and overnight stays in the hotel before home matches have been brought in to boost team spirit. Now the first one, the eating in the campaign, get my words out, the canteen, I would just assume that is a norm anyway. The hotel thing, I don't know when this has come in or out of the club. I know Nuno did this religiously. It was obviously to make sure the players weren't doing daft things the day before a game. But again, in regards to team morale and togetherness, I think that helps massively as well. So I'm all for those points. And there is obviously confirmation of Vitor in Wetherspoons as well. Big Tim, part of the Bouncer Bros there on the left-hand side. And that was Saturday evening. Like I said, after the game against Ipswich, fair play. The energy levels Vitor must have at the moment. I don't know if it's the adrenaline of winning football matches. But like I said, I'll be shattered after a long journey back from Ipswich. Of course, then we now come on to the transfer bits and pieces. We're talking about Matheus Cunha. That is the inevitable one, as John Percy points out here. I'll talk a little bit more about Matheus in a second, because there are other stories and news surrounding him. There is interest in Ryan Aït-Nouri, who may be another big sale. Now, no teams are mentioned on this article about Ryan. One potential scenario that I've suggested a number of times on the channel and on the podcast as well. We had a really good talk about some of this before the article even came out. We had a good talk about this on the podcast this week, which is worth checking out. But I said, in my opinion, there could be a world where Ryan stays, and depending on how he gets on throughout the rest of the season, Hugo Bueno could be a sale for me. Not that I'd want that to happen. I think it'd be unbelievable if we could have Ryan Aït-Nouri and Hugo Bueno in the squad next season. But with him doing so well at Feyenoord, with them still, as of right now, in Champions League as well, in the Champions League, there could be a scenario where Hugo goes for, or is available for, quite a chunk of money. He owes us nothing in regards to PSR and financial fair play. That would be a huge sale for Wolves. And then obviously you can keep Ryan. But I think you would actually make more money on Hugo in terms of profit as well than you would on Aït-Nouri. So it's an interesting situation, but of course he's always going to attract interest. The thing with Ryan Aït-Nouri is that he's always attracted interest. I'm not even sure he's signed a new deal whilst he's been at the club as well. So it's probably a case of this summer looking to sell on Ryan or sign up to a new deal. But I do think there's a conversation, or there is a universe where Hugo Bueno could be, in my opinion, the one that is sold. Of course, the futures of Nelson Semedo and Pablo Sarabia have to be decided. Both players are expected to leave. I think at the time with Nelson, I was half expecting us to wait until around this time of the season to see the situation that we're in regards to survival and if he'll stay. I think Wolves have got the ready-made replacements already at the club, i.e. Rodrigo Gomez and Pedro Lima. I think Rodrigo Gomez's progress has been held back a little bit due to his fitness and injuries. Pedro Lima maybe just not quite ready, although I don't think he's looked out of place when he's been given the opportunities. So for me, I think a great scenario there would be that Nelson stays for one more year and we use that as an opportunity to bed Rodrigo and or Pedro in a little bit more. But as it's been reported elsewhere heavily over the last few months, the situation with Nelson is obviously his wage. He's on quite a big chunk, as is Pablo Sarabia, as is Matheus Cunha, and I think you're going to be more than likely moving on your three biggest earners, and that's quite a little bit of money for Wolves to play with going into the summer. But yeah, I think Nelson, obviously, we've seen interest from Benfica, his former club, although it's unknown whether they're going to be able to match the sort of wage demands that he's on right now. You've got Inter Milan, who have reportedly been interested as well, and I have no doubt there'll be probably clubs further afield, like in Saudi Arabia, that would be interested and more than likely could probably match the wage, if not better the wage that he's on at Wolves at the moment. Pablo Sarabia, again, one of the higher earners, fantastic cameo performance against Ipswich, as we would, we expect to see from Pablo. We just haven't seen it enough. Great player, played in every match so far this year under Vitor, which I think surprises a lot of people when I use that stat. I just think he's a luxury player. And as much as I like Pablo being a squad member, does it warrant us paying him that much money? I'm not so sure. And again, as I've talked about before, there's interest from Spain and probably further afield, again, with Saudi Arabia and clubs in America looking at him as well. And then a new goalkeeper is understood to be the priority. Sam Johnston is keen to move on and become a number one at another club again. That was his plan at Wolves. Of course, he was number 2 at Crystal Palace. He came to Wolves to be a number 1. Under Gary O'Neill, who's in and out of the team, Vitor made his mind up straight away. And Jose Sarr, other than the cup games, which Johnson has been given an opportunity in, Sarr has been the number 1 goalkeeper. So, seemed a bit of a daft purchase now in hindsight. I think Sam Johnston, I think Wolves would do very well to recoup the 10 million. I think the bonus is that he has got Premier League experience and he is English, so it certainly helps with certain quotas. But yeah, that's no surprise. It'll be interesting to see if Wolves do bring in someone that's going to be a deputy to Jose Sarr or someone that is going to be a number 1, because of course there were many heavy rumours that Jose Sarr was potentially moving on last summer and even in January as well. So that could be an interesting scenario, because Wolves have sort of made it no secret, not just the last window, but we're talking 18 months to 2 years ago that Wolves have been looking for a new number 1 and just haven't really been able to find it as of yet. Probably the key quote from this article that people will be picking out is there will be money available for new signings, though a major spend is not anticipated. Now, again, that would have been expected for me. I don't think that is any major surprise. But when you put into consideration the wages that Wolves will be freeing up, you will assume Matheus Cunha will go. You will assume maybe one of a big signing, like John Percy said there, possibly Ryan Aït-Nouri. Wolves will be making close to sort of 85 to 90 million pounds in sales just there. And then you've got a lot of fringe players that may well be moving on. You've got your Fabio Silvas. You've got other players in and around the squad that haven't really made an impact, who obviously inevitably will go as well. So Wolves will be making over 100 million in sales. So you would hope now that's the money that they can use to spend on players. The self-sustainable and self-sufficient model, when you first go into it and start it, is horrible, because ultimately it's got to start somewhere and you've got to strip back the finances somewhere. But when you get to seasons and stages like this where Wolves do have the sellable assets in the squad, all of a sudden you make 100, you bring in 100 million pounds worth of sales, and you're able to find 3-4 players in different positions of the same quality and ilk of the likes of Andre or Jørgen Strand Larsen, which are costing around the 20 million pound mark. You're able to bring in there 3 or 4 or 5, even 5 top quality players there. So that's when the self-sustainable model starts to work, and you think, okay, maybe Fosun aren't in the aren't completely stupid or as stupid as we think. So this summer for me is massive. I think they've cocked it up a lot over the last couple of years. They've got to be proactive this summer and hopefully get this Cunha deal done sooner rather than later, and we can really strengthen the team and hopefully obviously give Vitor a real nice core to work with from the start of pre-season onwards. Vitor Pereira, he wants to prioritise players who can beat opponents in one-on-ones, with at least one number 10 likely to arrive, which we would expect with Cunha moving on. I think that area is probably somewhere Wolves will want to bulk and strengthen. Players in behind Jørgen Strand Larsen, basically. Obviously, he's going to complete his £23 million move, which we always knew. But yeah, Very, very interesting article. Lots of information there for us to look at and talk about. Let's move on to the other couple of pieces of news that I mentioned earlier as well. One of those is obviously about Matheus Cunha, who is bound to be moving on. There is a discussion obviously to be had about his selection on Sunday, which we discussed on the podcast, and I'll talk about a lot more in the match preview later on this week against Tottenham. But his agent is reportedly set to fly into England soon for face-to-face talks with potential suitors. Now, Manchester United are the latest team to be credited with an interest in Matheus Cunha. Of course, Arsenal heavily linked previously. Nottingham Forest still said to hold an interest, obviously with their European football being a huge factor in that. However, it is said that Cunha would probably prefer a move to a more traditional Big Six club. Of course, you're talking the likes of Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Manchester United, Arsenal. I think out of those, Arsenal seem to be the favourite at the moment. You would assume Matheus would want to move for European football as well. So if Manchester United or Spurs maybe win the Europa League, they could be an option. But I don't know. And you know, like I said earlier, there'll be a conversation to be had whether he comes straight back into the team on Sunday. But this is a saga that I want to be cut short sooner rather than later. And you would hope now with maybe that release clause that as soon as the transfer window opens, clubs will come knocking to trigger that deal. Especially now Wolves are safe. It's really important that we sort of bring in the funds to try and, like I said earlier, be proactive and get these signings done sooner rather than later. And one of the other players that I'd mentioned a little bit earlier on as well was Fabio Silva. Again, a new club registered with an interest in him is Celta Vigo. Fabio's doing okay in Spain, to be fair. He was quieting down a little bit in terms of goal contributions, but he picked up another assist, a really nice assist earlier on this week for Las Palmas. Decent return for him. It looks like his future is away from Wolves. I think a lot of people seeing Vitor in charge now. Is there a chance for a redemption season for Fabio Silva to come back? I think if he's open to that option, Wolves will have to tie him down to a new deal. I think he's going into the last 12 months of his contract now. So basically, this is a massive decision for both the player and the club to make. They've made a lot of money in loan fees over the years. They'll probably maybe get 15 to 20 million at a push. So it won't be a huge loss. Not as big as a loss as maybe we would have thought maybe 12 to 18 months ago. But Celta Vigo are aware that there's going to be a lot of interest. We've seen Sevilla interested, I think, before. Atletico Madrid interested in Fabio Silva. The only issue is there's not tons and tons of money over in Spain. So Wolves have got to be quite cautious and clever about this deal. But when given the chances, Fabio has done the business abroad. He struggled a little bit at Rangers, but PSV certainly did it. Anderlecht, who was struggling that season, he stood out. So it will be, again, an interesting summer and an interesting move to see where Fabio Silva goes next. But I would probably say I'm 90% sure he won't be in a Wolves shirt from next season onwards. But guys, that is all for today. A nice update for you all. Hopefully you appreciate my thoughts on it as well and the latest updates. Let me know your thoughts on anything that I've discussed in today's video. Let's hope the sun continues to shine. Let's hope Wolves continue to pick up points. Be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.